Welcome to the Whole Athlete Podcast, where we focus on discussing topics to help you become a fat burner, optimize health, and improve performance in life and sports. Transform the whole you from the inside out with the holistic method. Let's dive in. Here's your host, Debbie Potts.
Hey everybody, it's Debbie Potts, your host of the Whole Athlete Podcast with a new episode of my special Thursday edition that I call Real Thoughts with Debbie Potts. And today's episode, I'm going to continue working on putting the pieces of the puzzle together to help you become a metabolically efficient, fat-adapted athlete. As I realized, I've been doing this with clients since before 2005. I was doing MAF heart rate training back in 2004. I started doing Ironmans back in 2001 and marathons before that. And I started doing metabolic efficiency testing with New Leaf, I think around 2005. And I would be still doing it if Lifetime Fitness did not purchase a company and make all of our equipment obsolete and left with nothing to do any more testing unless we have $20,000 to invest in a Parvo cart and do that again with clients. So until then, I will be talking about new research on metabolic efficiency and how to become a fat adapted athlete by talking about nutritional therapy and what I've learned so far this year at the different conferences I've been to. So I just got back from PaleoFX. It was in Austin, and I was so excited to go to Austin. I've been wanting to go forever, and I sadly was just in the convention hall most of the time, but got to go for some great runs along the river there, and did not see any bats, but saw where the million bats live under the bridge, and got some great little low heart rate training and some interval training, and really had some nice morning sun exposure. And then I had to go inside a convention hall. The great thing about PaleoFX, because they're all into being outside and the importance of natural light, sun exposure, they had two of the stages outside, so you can sit in the shade or you can sit on these great beanbags on the grass and listen to the presentation, because I really do not like sitting in those dark conference rooms. And the big expo hall was in this large room that was really dark and loud. Which is a side note, if you've read about natural light and circadian rhythm and the importance of not having blue light exposure at nighttime, you know that you should probably be off those blue light emitting devices. Or if you are, wear the Swannies glasses, or there's True Dark and different blue blocking glasses you can buy now. What was funny is that people are wearing them all day long. I thought, okay, how does that make any sense? Because we're supposed to have the light exposure in the morning and help our circadian rhythm be in balance in the melatonin cortisol rhythm and be in opposition. And so these people, I think, because they're trying to sell the glasses, they're walking around wearing them. Anyways, it's pretty fun going to PaleoFX. It is more for the consumer. I'm used to going to nutritional therapy conferences and different functional medicine, more so for the health therapist, versus this one's more for the consumer. But I was impressed by that because I think it's great. It was really impressive and great to see how many people really want to learn more, which is why you listen to podcasts probably, and all these people there listen to Dave Asprey and Ben Greenfield, and they know JJ Virgin and Mark Sisson and all these people that really kind of started this world, and Rob Wolf, and all these amazing people were there. Dr. Perlmutter spoke, and Dr. Alan Christensen, and Dr. Tom O'Brien was there, and a bunch of other people that I love learning from. So it's great to have just people that want to just learn and just love this field of nutrition and health and natural movement. So as you know, I've been a personal trainer in the fitness industry since I was in college, so it's been a few years. And over the years, well, even in college, I've always was interested in nutrition and health. And in high school, I was into dieting and different nutrition trends. And so I've always had a passion for that area. But back in college to get a degree in nutrition involved all this chemistry and physics and all this stuff. So I didn't go that route. I fell in love with exercise science and going into recreation, going into fitness, corporate fitness and traveling and all that I got into. That in college. And then afterwards, over the years, I've really been interested in nutrition, then evolved into this metabolic efficiency side of things and how do we burn fat. And as an athlete, starting back in the 90s, I was doing triathlons and Seattle to Portland bike ride and Mount Rainier ride. It's called Ramrod, ride around Mount Rainier one day. I started doing all this endurance training back when I was in my 20s, before everyone else is really going gangbusters over these long distance events and Ironmans. I started when I was 29 years old, marathons, that I wrote all this in my Life is Not a Race book you can find on Amazon, but I was interested in testing our limits when I would go for a bike ride and wonder, how am I supposed to lose weight and burn off these calories if I'm supposed to have all these carbohydrates and eat so many calories an hour? It made no sense to me way back in early 2000s. So fast forward to 2018, I've really gotten into becoming a health coach, and my niche now, I want to focus on coaching the whole athlete from the inside out with the holistic method. There's 8 elements in there. I work on coaching people and created over the last 10 years a 21-day program that I have added a 5-day jumpstart to it and transition period time. So I make it the 30-day total transformation program. I didn't know back 10 years ago that what I was doing wasn't just an anti-inflammatory diet, but I've been teaching people how to become fat adapted, not knowing that burning fat, part of the byproduct is burning ketones. And when you restrict your carbohydrate intake and add more healthy fats, then we start to become more efficient at burning fat for fuel and switch over to a fat burner. And then we work on metabolic flexibility, that we can rely on our fuel being fat fuel from the fat fuel tank and go to carbohydrate quick energy when we need it. So think of those burning logs versus burning kindling in our fire. So as I became a nutritional therapy practitioner 2 years ago, this year I'm starting the nutritional or FDN practitioner. So functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner. That's why they call it FDN. So I can order functional labs for people and put all this information together to help put the pieces of the puzzle together for clients that are struggling with fatigue, burnout, not be able to rebound from workouts. If you're feeling you can't sleep, you can't lose weight, all sorts of different symptoms. It comes to looking at the whole you. A lot of it is digestion, what we're eating, but it's also chronic stress and living life as a race. So today I want to kind of I just want to share that because I'm putting what I've been working on in my head and from my own experience and my own journey, put together what are hot topics this year at conferences. So nutritional ketosis, as you know, has been kind of growing the last few years, and that's a hot area. Then there's fasting, intermittent fasting, and time-restricted eating, TRE it's called. And then there's new research that's been the last 10 years, but really I've been studying it recently, and just big ahas about this mitochondrial health and how the mitochondria have 2 roles, not just producing energy, but they also can have an impact on stress. If there's too much stress, they can also be put into cell defense mode, taking them away from their main job of being the energy producers. So that's a huge topic I'm interested in. Then again, the microbiome's always growing and tons of research there. And my friend Kuran, that I've gotten to know a little bit from conferences, always blows me away with research. And then we've got environmental toxins, and Dr. Zach Bush was at the conference this year at PaleoFX talking about glyphosate. That's the toxin, the main one in Roundup that's in all of our fields, and why you need to eat organic. It's just kind of sickening when you hear all those stats of what's happening from glyphosate specifically. and all of the fields and, this amount of cancer that they're associating with the glyphosate, and the list goes on, but it's pretty insane. So I wrote this on a blog on my website. I'm also going to go into more of this next topic, hormetic stress. The topic comes up a lot on this show and my writing because life is not a race. My background with chronic stress and doing 20 something marathons, and I did 15 Ironmans, and I haven't been able to do anything since 2013 because of health problems and this domino effect of issues that happened back then. And this is the reason I'm doing what I'm doing now, to help you avoid all that. But hormetic stressors are really something we need to look at. And if you we'll get into my blog article, acute stress versus chronic stressors. That's a huge topic for us athletes, that we're, to avoid training in that black hole. We want to avoid that chronic stress and that black hole of training at too high of heart rates, and doing too much of that too often is going to cause some dysfunction in your body and be a stressor. So we want to avoid that. Lastly, I didn't get it too much in this topic on my blog. I'm trying to schedule some podcasts on this, but again, in genetics, I talked about DNA Fit, that I took their coaching program, and they actually just updated their services and their website. There's lots of other companies. I saw PaleoFX, or just about similar to DNA Fit, your personalized nutrition exercise program. So you can do any of these programs if you go to Ancestry.com or 23andMe. You do the test, but as I've written some blogs on this as well, that you can take that raw data from your website, from doing your saliva test on the website. They'll have raw data you can upload, save it to a file in your computer, and then upload that raw data into DNA Fit, and then you just use that instead of buying their kit. Also, Dr. Ben Lynch, who I'm looking forward to in 2020 to do his genetic Dirty Genes program. He has a great data upload system there called Strategene, and his website seekinghealth.com. He has tons of blogs and information on the genetics. So I didn't get too much of that in my blog because it would have been a huge article if I did. So as I always say, everybody is unique. There is not one size fits all approach. And we have different genetics, different microbiome, we have different lifestyle habits, we have different exercise routines, sleep cycles. So what works for me doesn't work for you. And I've said this many times on the show as I read Facebook posts and in these different private pages for fasting and keto and different people trying to lose weight and get healthy and optimize their health at a cellular level. I think there's a lot of things missing. And that's another article, ebook I'm writing, is that we need to remember we're unique. And I want to talk about nutritional ketosis, what people are talking about at the PaleoFX conference. I think everyone agrees that we need to balance our blood sugar and be fat burners. And part of that, as I said earlier, is you can have ketones, which are going to help give your brain energy and help with that memory and focus and clarity, and also for brain disorders, diseases. And also, nutritional ketosis is really important for anyone with cancer, with anyone with type 2 diabetes, insulin resistance, really dropping those carbs, moderate protein, because too much protein can be used as glucose in gluconeogenesis if we need to add more energy by glucose. And we want to focus on adding more healthy fats, which is a struggle for a lot of people because we grew up thinking, fat is bad, let's eat everything fat-free and be low fat. And so I think since then, so many people till this day are still scared to eat fat. So what was said at PaleoFX and other conferences I've been at is that fat burning, fat adapted is important, but there's these pitfalls that happen a lot with people. So I've talked about this one a lot: eating too fast, being sympathetic dominant, eating too much protein, not eating enough vegetables with the high fiber, which will help feed your gut wall lining. People drinking too much coffee, especially at Paleo FX Expo Hall, half the booths were selling coffee with all this brain octane oil in it. So I think a lot of people are drinking too much caffeine. And another thing that's kind of a pitfall for nutritional ketosis is you're not detoxifying properly before you start. Because once you start using your fat for fuel instead of glucose, you may be releasing toxins, because we all have excessive toxins in our environment that we can't always control unless it's your own household skincare products and facial stuff you use and soaps and laundry detergent, all that. But if you start to detoxify as you restrict your carbohydrates and start to burn fat for fuel, when you burn fat for fuel, you'll need some type of binder to help remove those toxins. So chlorophyll, activated charcoal, what else did I say? Bentonite clay I've used, and there's some other ones. But also make sure you're doing some detoxification processes as sweating. So exercising, using infrared therapy is really, really important. A lot of people are saying, I think everyone was talking about the near infrared therapy and the red light therapy for helping cells, but also your detoxification processes, sticking with this topic, your respiration system. So breathing heavier, sweating, other your toxins will come out from breathing, from your skin, from your urine, from your poop. So you want to remove those toxins and getting them out and making sure those elimination pathways are working. So before you start a nutritional ketosis game plan to become fat adapted, make sure you have everything in order. I think the biggest thing for me that I'm going to be speaking about on Jimmy Moore's low carb cruise this year is the inability to burn fat perhaps is related to sources of stress. So they're kind of these roadblocks that are going to inhibit you from being fat adapted because you have too many stressors in your life, or you have stressors living in your gut with gut dysbiosis, bad bacteria, or you could just be needing to get your liver to detoxify, and there's all sorts of things. Another thing is digestive enzymes. So a lot of people aren't able to switch over to high-fat diet right away because they don't have the stomach acid proper amount of 1.5 to 3 on the pH scale. So usually we need more acidic supplements to help break down the food and the protein. And then when we get in, the food moves into the small intestines, it goes the first part at the bottom, and we need to have that food be the right acidity, and then certain things are going to happen, and the enzymes will be released there as well as the bile to help the bile emulsify the fat. So we need the digestive enzymes, lipase, help break down the fat, and bile to help emulsify the fat. So you can take supplements as ox bile, digestive enzymes that have the enzymes to break down carbs, protein, and fat, as well as most people need HCl betaine. I would see a nutritional therapy practitioner before you start just taking all these random supplements, because there's 50 different ones to take, and we test them on your body to figure out if you need one for one. We do a functional evaluation, palpating on different reflex points, and then we do neurolingual testing, or some people do muscle testing to determine which supplement makes that organ function at optimal level and help bring your body back into homeostasis. So for sure, see a nutritional therapy practitioner in your area. Okay, so another big topic, fasting and intermittent fasting. Now, we've been doing this for a while in my 5-day jumpstart challenge that I started, and I was doing just green drinks, no fruit for a day, and having a keto shake from Dr. Axe that I like to have people use, Keto Feast, and bone broth some days. And then we started doing intermittent fasting, not eating at nighttime, having a 16-hour fast. And if you do 16 hours, that leaves 8 hours for you to eat. So your time restricted feeding or eating window is 8 hours. And I think every seminar I went to, they mentioned the importance of fasting and doing a 24-hour water fast once a month. If you get into it, reading the research, I would love for you to read Dr. Jason Fung's book. There's another book I just got on cell autophagy that goes into it more, and I know Mike Mutzel's writing a new book and doing lots of research on that as well. Intermittent fasting is what a lot of people, including Dr. McCullough, who has a new book called Keto Fast, but the benefit, one of the great benefits from fasting is that it's a natural way to get you into fat burning, because what else is your body going to do for fuel? They're going to look for fat to keep, and ketones are going to be broken down to fuel the brain. So when you deprive your body of carbohydrates, it will figure out how to keep operating. It's smart. Your body will burn those ketones. So you don't need to take all those supplements. You can just fast and teach your body how to get into ketosis. So it's a quick way. If you had your 2-day feast, maybe you ate too much, you went to a party or something, a great way to get back on track into nutritional ketosis is with a water fast, maybe a 24-hour fast. And there's more of that to come. But for sure, I would get Dr. Jason Fung's book, Dr. McCullough's book. I'm just finishing up Fat for Fuel, and I'm doing his program for health coaching on metabolic therapy. And his book, Keto Fasting, just came out. I just got it. I have like 20 books to read, so I gotta, but I think I'll read that one next. But it is all about to be keto, which I rather think of keto as to be fat adapted. I'm going to do more intermittent fasting, and it's easy for me to do it during the weekdays, and then weekend not be as strict. And even Dr. McCullough has this in his Fat for Fuel book to do the 5-2. Now, after you're fat adapted, you can start this. So do a 30-day program as I coach people on the Total Transformation Program. Then hopefully you should be fat adapted by the 30 days if you did not cheat. So then once you're more metabolically flexible and you're efficient at burning fat for your main fuel source, then you can go into, some people call it carb refeeding, and do that 5-2 cycle. So 5 days of intermittent fasting, maybe a 24-hour fast in there, and then 2 days that maybe you still eat good food. Don't go eat a bunch of crap, processed foods, vegetable oils, and refined sugars, but maybe you have something that you like that's kind of a cheat. And a few people agree with that. Other people, I think, are too strict. And I think if you're too strict, myself, I dieted way too much when I was in high school and college, that you got to put the life into living, as Vinnie Tortorich says. And I think it's really important to make this a lifestyle, not a diet. And for me, personally, to not feel like I'm dieting, you eat what you want on the weekends and still be somewhat strict, because you'll lose your cravings for sugar and you'll just want to eat vegetables and healthy fats and proteins. So it's not like you're really going off the rails, but you can get back into burning fat by just intermittent fasting and going back to 1 or 2 meals a day. You don't need to eat 3 meals a day, because you're going to be eating in that 8-hour window. So you really, if you eat the right ratio of fats, carbs, and proteins, you should be full and only need 1 to 2 meals a day, with maybe a snack if you need it, or a shake, or just drink more water, or have some bone broth. Okay, so I better move along, because I've got just a few more minutes left, and I've got a big list of things to go through. So let me just touch on these ones. You can go to the blog and read the rest, wpotts.net. Mitochondrial health. This is a huge topic I can talk an hour about. I'm fascinated by this. As someone with chronic stress background, we used to call it adrenal fatigue, adrenal exhaustion, with stage 3. Then as my book was published, it was more coined as, it's not the adrenals, it's the HP axis that gets dysregulated. So as you probably know already, hypothalamus, pituitary gland, adrenal gland relays messages and to release that cortisol, respond to that threat. So that's your fight or flight nervous system. So I'm going to do this on whole episode one Thursday, but think about this. If your mitochondria are your energy producers, if they are the energy metabolizers of our cell, if we have chronic fatigue, what's going on with our mitochondria? So Ari of the Energy Blueprint, I was reading through all of his information he sent out. And then I've been reading Dr. Mercola's book. And then at the conference, there's two companies that were doing the same thing, Mitochondrial Rescue. And everyone's talking about mitochondria have two roles. They thought it was just energy mode, but they're also the cell defense mode. So as I said earlier, if you're under a lot of stress, your body's stressed, your cells get shifted into cell defense mode, and then they should go back to energy mode. But just the same thing, that's what just is crazy to me. I'm figuring this out loud here, but just think if you are always, we want the resiliency. Same thing with what we always talk about, heart rate variability. We want to be sympathetic, nervous system, fight or flight, shift back to parasympathetic, rest and digest, recover, repair. And we should have resiliency to go back and forth, one or the other. If we're too much in sympathetic dominance, well, we're stuck in that fight or flight, we're always on. That impacts your HPA axis because your body's always putting out fires. Cortisol is always being released to put out that fire and that inflammation, respond to that threat. So the mitochondria, if they're saying that we have the ability of the mitochondria that's supposed to be our energy metabolism center, the powerhouse of our cells in our body, mitochondria, if they're in energy mode or cell defense mode, they should go back and forth. So we should have resiliency to switch back and forth. But if we do anything too often, it's the same word for everything. If we eat too much sugar all the time, we're supposed to be burning fat, be metabolically flexible. If we eat too much sugar, we're not going back to fat burning. We're going to get stuck being sugar burners and become insulin resistant over time. If we're always in fight or flight mode, we're going to become sympathetic dominant. If our mitochondria are always being put in cell defense mode, they're going to need to be taken away from the energy mode. So we get fatigue, chronic fatigue. Everyone's talking about the mitochondria, but they're not, no one's really, I didn't hear one person talk about what happened to the adrenals. Is that related to stress? How does that correlate with the mitochondria? The heart rate variability they test to determine how stressed your mitochondria are. But that's testing heart rate variability is your nervous system. And if you listen to Joe Beth the other week that we did a podcast on sweet beet heart rate variability testing, we measure the LF and the HF, high frequency, the power frequencies, and low frequency related to our parasympathetic and our sympathetic nervous system. So if that's out of whack, if we're not resilient, shift back and forth, we are weak there. That relates to our cells. Mitochondria are weak. They're not strong. And if that's happening, that is an added stress maybe to the hypothalamus, pituitary, adrenal axis. So who knows? They all overlap. I'd like to talk to someone that's an expert in this, doing the science, because I'm just making this up in my head, putting these pieces of the puzzle together. But then take the microbiome. If you talk to Karan at Megaspore, the microbiome is an added stress if we have low diversity. So go to number 4 on my list. If we have a leaky gut because of excess toxins, undigested food, eating our food incorrectly, we're not digesting it, breaking it down so it becomes putrefied, proteins are putrefied, fats acidify, and carbohydrates ferment, and it moves from the stomach, maldigested, into our small intestine, into the colon. We have all sorts of problems. So if we have gut issues, gut dysfunction, leading to leaky gut, we have gut bacteria, low diversity, and leading all this to leaky gut, then we have a main toxic bacteria that Karan talks about, LPS. And a lot of other people, Dr. Zach Bush spoke about it. But that LPS, if it escapes into the body, that is also related to autoimmune inflammation issues. So I wrote in my blog all sorts of stuff that was shared by Kron and the Total Gut Restoration Program. And then I know we talked last year to Dr. Zach Bush on Restore, their product, and talking about glyphosate. But in our environment, I shared a lot of his stats that he told in his seminar. Dr. Zach Bush talked, for one, about the amount of people taking antibiotics. And there's 23, which I wrote this down, but it's a wide range. 23 to 56% of people battle with depression, and 17 up to 44% of people will experience amount of anxiety after taking antibiotics. Within 12 months, they'll have a higher rate of depression and anxiety. It's pretty crazy. And just to mention also that our serotonin, said 90% of it's made in our gut wall lining. 50% of our dopamine is made in our gut, and 40% is made in our kidneys. So you can listen to podcasts we just did with Natural Stacks founder Roy, talk about brain health, and we'll do another podcast this fall with Karan on the gut health and performance for the athlete. So I'm going to finish with that. I want you to read my blog. I wrote a bunch on hormetic stress, the benefits of acute stress versus chronic stress. And that's another show we're going to have with Mike Mutzel, because I want to talk for endurance training. Training the black hole causes a lot of stress and oxidative stress to our body, because we got to get into free radicals and ROS and talk about that. But we want to do the Maffetone style of training, the 180 minus your age, plus or minus 5 beats, depending on your health and training, and do that low heart rate training. And then once in a while, if we're got enough base, we want to do interval training, go high, go low. But I think so many people train in that dead zone, that black hole. So we need to do a whole podcast on that, talk about, all right, I do want to train for an Ironman, I do want to train for a marathon, but how should I train without causing stress? Because I think the overall goal I want to talk about on this show is performance, our peak performance gains, but longevity. We want to improve the aging process from a cellular level with the holistic methods, so we can thrive and feel alive when we are 80 years old. Like my buddy Dwayne Reed, who just did Lava Man, and he looks like he's still in his 60s, and he kicked about 650 other people's butts in Lava Man this year. So he just turned 80 and is rocking it. I want to be like that when I'm 80. So let me know your questions. This is Real Thoughts with Debbie Potts podcast. So it's just me blabbing, sharing my thoughts, what I'm working on. I'm writing a new ebook on how to become a fat adapted athlete, putting all this information together. Love for you to read more of this blog I'm talking about that I'm sharing on the website. I'll put the link in the show notes. And anything else, just let me know on the Facebook page, The Whole Athlete. And if you want to join in, I'm starting that online coaching program for 10 people. It's 30-day total transformation program. If you just want to do the 5-day jumpstart, you can do that. It's $97 for the 5-day that I coach you every day for 5 days on the holistic method, and we do intermittent fasting and a little bit more of the holistic method elements. And then the 30-day program, we go through 5 days. Then we do the 21-day sugar detox and the fat adaptation. And then we work on some fasting and all sorts of stuff together. So if you want to sign up, just send me an email via the website, debbiepotts.net. All right, guys, I gotta go and enjoy some of the sunshine outside. So hopefully you are making today your best day ever and feeling alive and thriving. See you soon.
Thanks for listening to the Whole Athlete Podcast. If you have any questions, feedback, or topic suggestions, let us know on Facebook or at wholeathletepodcast.com. You can help us continue and grow by leaving a review on iTunes. Thanks again, and see you next time.